Germany's monopoly territory is home to 17 million people.
Families already struggle to pay their bills.
AGD was convicted of 91 felonies.
Really? I mean, what's next?
Greybeard Talks Solar. He is SolarWise.
Welcome to the Greybeard Talks Solar YouTube channel. Thank you so much for joining the channel and watching the video today. Today's video is going to be all about the question I get the most from people that are exploring solar and then those that have had solar panels. I've never talked about it here on the channel, and that is, how often do you need to clean your solar panels? How often do you need to clean them? Do you need to clean them at all? And so we're going to jump into that subject today. And please share, like, and definitely subscribe to the channel if you find this information enlightening and beneficial to you in your quest of either saving money or helping the planet with solar energy. So let's get into it. Solar panels obviously sit on either the roof or the ground-mounted systems versus roof-mounted systems. And it's very common for people to have this question: how often do panels need to be cleaned? Do they, in fact, need to be cleaned? Is that even necessary? And the short answer is yes. Obviously, dirt, debris, pollen, things like that are going to degrade panels. But I think it's a surprise for most folks to understand just how significantly or insignificantly dirty panels could affect the amount of energy that your system produces. And so let's talk first about ground-mounted systems. Ground-mounted systems are both the easiest to maintain in terms of cleaning the panels, but also the most significant exposure to dirt, elements, dust, debris, etc., because they're much closer, obviously, to the ground. Most ground-mounted systems are anywhere from like 18 inches to 2 feet off the ground. The backside of the panels, as it slopes up, maybe 6-8 feet off the ground. And most ground mount folks are in rural parts of the territory, so in the hills, or at least have property, some elbow room. And so often I find that those panels are the dirtiest panels that we'll see, especially if you live in an area that has decent wind and also decent construction. You know, if you got new development, if you got new construction going on around you, if there's any dirt roads around you, if you live near an orchard or out in the hills, you'll obviously get solar panel dust, debris, etc., that cakes the panels. And so normally we suggest that if you're an individual homeowner and it's highly inconvenient for you to clean your solar panels, we suggest doing it at least twice a year. Once would be after the pollen has fallen in spring. You know, pollen tends to be stickier. It adheres to the panel more than normal dust would adhere to a panel. And it's recommended that you do it after the spring pollen has fallen, so that pollen debris doesn't cake the panel and affect the output of the panels. And by the way, when you are cleaning panels, don't let anybody tell you that you need some sort of special detergent to be able to do that. In fact, you don't even use any detergent. My sons, I have 4 boys, and a couple of them got into the solar panel cleaning business and did it at significant scale, actually, and did a great job at doing so. And what we would suggest with panels, especially if you're going to clean them themselves, you just need to agitate the surface of the panel. So normally you do one of those brushes that has water attached to it. Water will come out the head of the brush, the brush head. And you don't need any detergent. You don't need any of that. You just need to agitate the surface of the panels. You do definitely need to have deionized or filtered water. What we would do is take a RV filter for like RV water supply. When you fill up, we take one of those filters, use that on the brush attachment, somewhere in between the hose bib and the actual brush, and that's what we'd use to agitate the surface of the panel. And then all you do is squeegee it and wipe it dry. So that's the sum total of it. But if you're an individual homeowner, definitely do it after the spring pollen has fallen, and then usually late in autumn or the fall season, right after all of the leaves have fallen, et cetera. We're starting to get into inclement weather. Normal rain doesn't normally take off the dirt debris. For example, if you live in an area that's highly populated with birds, you might have bird droppings and that kind of thing on the panel, and you definitely want to get those taken care of with that agitation on the brush surface, before the winter rains come. But generally 2 times a year, after spring pollen has fallen, and then later in the fall, right before the rainy season of the winter, is a good time to clean them. Now, having said that, I think if you have a ground-mounted system, it's much easier to clean a ground-mounted system much more frequently. But what you would describe as a layperson, if you're watching this video as a layperson, not in the industry, what you would normally describe as a highly dirty panel might really only affect the output of the panel, often less than 10%. Commonly, it's in the 4 to, I'd say, 7% range. And I have that number because I've had homeowners do this experiment where, let's say in the spring or the summer, where the weather is much more consistent, temperatures and sunlight, I would have them, with the dirty panel, monitor the production of the system before they clean the panels, and then monitor the production of the system after they clean the panels, and do that multiple times. And generally, it's somewhere between the 4 and 7% of a difference. Now, having said that, for example, most PPA providers and lease providers, any company that has a production guarantee, so if you lease a solar system or if you do a power purchase program, either of those 2 forms of adopting solar come with one of the benefits that I think is significant, and that is a production guarantee, which basically means that the sponsor of the lease or the owner of the power purchase program and the equipment that you're using, if the system doesn't generate 90% of what they felt or thought or projected it was going to generate. Now, most of the time, if you move forward on one of these agreements, you'll have a specific number. Let's just use 12,000 kilowatt hours, or let's use 10,000 kilowatt hours, because it'll make the math easy. Let's say you've got a system that's a power purchase or a lease system, and that system's supposed to generate 10,000 kilowatt hours for you. If it doesn't generate at least 9,000 kilowatt hours of energy, then the lease company or the owner of the system owes you money back as a refund because they didn't generate what they expected to generate. That's a safety net for you. It's a preventative measure to prevent leasing companies and power purchase companies from installing really crappy equipment, let's say. So many of the lease companies and power purchase companies out there won't even send crews out to clean the panels. They've already baked that into their 10% or less exposure that they've got before they start to owe you any money. So that's how insignificant, usually, quote unquote, a dirty panel in most people's mind, how insignificant that dirty panel is in terms of loss of production. So it's not quite as much as most people think. If I had to ask an average person how much they thought a dirty panel might reduce the amount of solar production from the system, I would probably hear numbers greater than 20%. I'd probably even sometimes hear numbers like 50%. It's not even close to those ranges. It's generally far less than 10% of an effect. But having said that, with some of the most expensive energy that we buy in California, in the Pacific Gas and Electric Territory, Southern California Edison, and then San Diego Gas and Electric, so PG&E, SCE, and SDG&E, in those areas, man, paying 40, 50, 60 cents a kilowatt hour or more, you want every advantage that you can get. And if that means that you can get up there and clean those panels, then by all means do so, because you will see some benefit. It's just probably not quite the great amount of benefit that you were expecting. Now, having said that, I do think that it's valuable to monitor the system and to regularly check on the system. And part of the advantage of cleaning your own panels is that you'll notice if there's any critters that have been by. If you've got birds nesting underneath your panels, or if you got chipmunks or squirrels or any other animals that might be in and around. Obviously, that to me is a greater jeopardy than the dirtiness of the panels. And so if you do clean the panels regularly, I think you're going to be more aware of those types of problems, because that is actually the most significant. Because solar doesn't have any moving parts, right? It's not an engine. It doesn't have brake pads to replace. It doesn't have oil coolant, to monitor. It doesn't have engine coolant to, fill up and reserve. You don't have to worry about transmissions. It's just wiring, right? So it doesn't break frequently or often, and the incidence of it going down or breaking often is third party or third issue, something like an animal, a critter, a rodent, something along those lines that starts chewing on wires or damages the panels or something along those lines. So cleaning it does allow you the opportunity to explore that. Now, since my kids were in the business, and I helped them a couple different days, I wanted to fully understand the business and help them run that. But when they were in the business, if you want to hire a third-party company to actually clean your solar panels for you, very commonly, I would say a good price gauge, depending on your area, depending on whether it's a 2-story house, 1-story house, how easy it is to access the panels, how many panels you have. I would say a good gauge for a third-party cleaner in terms of cost is probably somewhere between $7 and $10 a panel. That's probably going to be the range that most folks are going to fall in. If you've got a very large system, they'll discount it because obviously more panels, the volume, they'll give you better pricing. If you've got a 2-story house or a troublesome house that's on a cliff and it's highly dangerous, then obviously they're going to charge you more for that. But $7 to $10 is pretty common for what we've seen in the Northern California area as a cost for cleaning those solar panels. So, solar is a big investment. You want to make sure your investment's bearing as much fruit as possible. It's a very common question. Do you need to clean them? No. Should you clean them? Yes. Does it affect the performance of the panels? Absolutely it does. Is it a significant effect? No. So is it troublesome enough? Is it worrisome enough? Is it enough of an effect at 4 to 7% for you to want to clean them or to jump up on that roof yourself? That is for you to decide. And I'm just here to convey and relay the information, but it's a common question. And so we definitely wanted to address it here on the channel. So thanks for watching the Greybeard Talks Solar channel, where a little wisdom goes a long way toward turning sunshine into some serious savings for you. Please don't forget to smash the like, share, and subscribe buttons, if you will. Like, share, and subscribe. Stay charged. Stay informed, my friends, and keep shining. We'll be back here same time, same place next Monday to launch another video. That's it for the Greybeard Talks Solar YouTube channel. Have a great week.
Thanks for listening to SolarWise, Greybeard Talks Solar. Please visit our website, solarwiseco.com, to learn more. And we will see you next time on SolarWise.